Yo, 1 2 1 2. So I may cuss, but I don't curse. Let's get that situated first. Now, look, this is probably the reading that you didn't know you needed until now, but I got you. You know what I'm saying? This is about the Aries and North Node transit, South Node and Libra transit, which spanned from July 17th, 2023 to January 11th, 2025. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to break down everything that you just went through between those time frames. Now get this, right? And don't be mad at yourself or be hard on yourself. Pause, that's crazy work when I say this. But if you haven't experienced these things that I'm about to describe, then that means that you have to raise your self-awareness. I'm just keeping it a beam with you, all right? So it's pretty much too late now, right? Because you got what? A week left before the North Node transits into Pisces. But look at this as a learning experience for you to realize that you have overlooked some things. And when I discuss some of these things, you're going to be like, oh, yeah, I do recall a time or two that happened and I could have nipped it in the bud right there, but I didn't. Or I could have stood up, or I could have, you know what I mean, did something about it in regards to that transit. But, you know, it'll come back around again. I'm just keeping it a beam with you, you know? Pause. But I am. So, like I always be saying, life is about cycles, baby. You know what I mean? So, anyway, here nor there, let's get this started. So, the goal of Aries North Node, bars are nice, we know that already, right? Is to become whole. Bars, I'm just nice, but the goal is to become whole. Pause, because that's crazy work too, but I'm keeping it a beam with you. The goal is to become whole as an individual. And not for nothing, it is for the purpose of stepping into a ship. So I'm saying ship or ships plural because I think people use the word relationship too loosely, because there's a lot of ships, you know what I'm saying? There's dictatorships, there's relationships, there's partnerships, there's friendships. It's kind of like loosely used, like the isms, the communism, socialism, terrorism. You know what I'm saying? Like, they all don't mean the same thing. You could ask some political people what the isms mean. They all think it means the same thing, capitalism included. It's like, no, they all have different definitions. So I say, going through this journey, you probably have realized that too. Relationships deal with when you're having relations with people. I think we use it normally a lot of the times, especially in astrology. We say, oh, Libra, that deals with relationships, business or personal. And it's just like, all right, look, knock it off. Because a Libra relationship is really a partnership. Two people coming together to cooperate, to do something, to negotiate terms so they can cooperate and do something. That's really more along the lines of a partnership, right? When we're speaking about relationships, we're talking about relations. You understand what I'm saying? Like, it gets a little bit deeper than that. It gets a bit more intimate than that. You know what I'm saying? Type shit. So I think it's very important for the rest of this discussion to realize the difference between ships, realize which ones you are in. You might be in all of them. Cool. But be distinctive when it comes to recalling the things that come to mind when I say what I say. The goal, though, is to be whole as an individual for the purpose of stepping into this ship with all you got. And listen, don't beat yourself up. Pause, that's crazy work. By thinking that, oh, I have to be at a certain level, at a certain pace, at a certain space. Bars are nice. In order to deal or intertwine with this other individual or individuals, because that would be further from the truth. That's not true. You should show up as you are in this very instant. And if you're not accepted or if you're rejected in that very instant, I would say take it personal, but it's because the alignment is not correct for that ship. You understand what I'm saying? It's nothing that you did wrong. It's not that you were too slow or that you were too fast or that person was too slow or too fast. It's just the chemistry between you two are not in alignment in that particular time, right? Now, in some instances, you may have felt like things were being forced, or you may have forced yourself on other people, especially some of us when it came to new relationships between this time of July 2023 in January 2025, we have met new people. What happened is we have gotten excited about meeting those new people. So what happened consequently is we started like, brr. You understand what I'm saying? There's a lot of drrta. You understand what I'm saying? Because it was just like that elated feeling that happens. It's like the honeymoon phase. You understand what I'm saying? And again, you determine and discern which ship I'm talking about, you know? But you got excited. We got excited. We got into these new mixes, which was, felt very spring-like because the North Node is in Aries. This is common for all of us during this time. What we learned, however, is patience for sure, and we learned something else. What did we learn? Impulse control. That's right. Impulse control we had to also learn, because some of these relationships fizzled out. And I don't mean completely. Some of them may have fizzled out completely. Others just needed timeouts, more studying, more researching. And you may say, oh, more studying and researching of the other person. Nope. More studying and researching of the self, because the North Node is in Aries. Now, try to recall times that you went back to either that type of ship or other ships, and you had discussions with them after you've been journeying on your own, on your solo mission, and recall how those conversations went. All right? Were the people that you are in ships with embracing, welcoming to the things that you had to say during those discussions? Or did they see you in a different type of way? Like, oh, you acting funny, you're pretty distant now, you're pretty cold, this, that, and the third. And that's only if you explain to them what you've been doing in the meantime, in between time, right? Because sometimes we could be vague, sometimes we can't say, or we don't say what we need to say when Aries is in the North Node position. And this reason being is because there's a subconscious condition of being used to empathizing and thinking of how one should show up in the ship instead of how one should show up as themselves. Does that make sense? So sometimes we have been reluctant during this period to actually say what it is to that person, because saying what it is to that person is 100% authentically you, and they have to deal with that. And it might be all bets off, right? Who knows? You might ruffle feathers, rub someone the wrong way, because the opposite, right? Libra, congenial, harmonious, partnering and balancing comes with not being harsh, critical, or you understand what I'm saying? And the healthy thing about North Node being in Aries is, I don't say this as you should have taken the time, or that we have taken the time to be standoffish with these people that we're in ships with or getting in ships with. It just really, truly, the healthiest part of Aries and North Node is to stand in one's own conviction authentically without causing offense. And yes, there is a way to do it. Fire signs, I'm talking to you, I'm pointing you out. But listen, right? Seriously. You don't have to be standoffish. There's a way to state your piece, state what you are, who you are truly, and do it in a way that is, I wouldn't say cautious, but considerate. Considerate. You understand what I'm saying? And then you just leave it. It's like an open-ended thing that you just leave open for the other person to interpret, for the other person to converse back with you and express, oh, okay, whether they are with it or they can't stomach it. You understand what I'm saying? Some of us have had actual fallouts during this time. And not for nothing, if you look around, right, societal wise, let's just say, if you do that type of thing, you'll see how many people have had fallouts during this range between 2023 to 2025. Like if you look into the celebrity world or the celebrity gossip and the tabloids and stuff like that, people who are like this are no longer like this. They do interviews and they expose. All of these thumbnails say expose this, expose that. That's the part of Aries North Node where people are standoffish, or the Libra South Node part has this, how people pull back from how the relationship or whatever ship it is usually goes. And then that person the other party starts to stand up for themselves and, stand in their convictions and be authentically them. The other person feels some type of way because it's in some form of a way like a manipulative tactic too. Like, oh, I don't got them like I used to. And it doesn't necessarily mean that they've been malicious the whole entire time. They just probably didn't get to see you in the rawest form that could be, and that's Aries. There's an innocence that comes with Aries and North Node, to where you have no one can hold you accountable for doing you and being you during this time period, or during that time period, 2023 to 2025. You found out your own voice. You became selfish during this time period so that you can hear your own voice. Very imperative. Again, if you hadn't experienced this in this time frame, you missed out. You got to raise your self-awareness, because you would have picked up on this. You would have picked up on this. And, because the goal is to be whole, there is too much failures in society that are unraveling right before our eyes due to the dependency of our relationships, or the ships that we are in, right? Without enabling the individual to go out and be the best that they can be. You understand what I'm saying? It's like this. Let me give you an example, because I don't want to just be speaking and it sounds like jargon. Like, let's say I'm in a relationship, right? And let's just say a partnership. I'm going to confuse things, because sometimes you could be roommates and you ain't fucking. You understand what I'm saying? But let's say we're partners and we live in the same place, right? And I'm going to school for interior design, right? And you, on the other hand, my partner is, let's just say they're an inheritance baby, just because I can't come up with a profession real quick, right? Let's just say they're an inheritance baby and they already got it all. And we get this new place, or whatever the case may be, and they say, hey, I'm going to invest, I'm going to call these decorators over to have them interior decorate the place. And as the Aries North Node individual that's going to school for interior decorating, one might say, well, what's the point of me going to school doing this? Like, I'm going to school and I'm doing this. Why would you go hire other people, right? Now, I'm trying to bring in the context of the balance here, Aries North Node and South Node Libra, because the Libra South Node, depending on how you practice, how you learned, South Node and like East Coast, Eastern Hemisphere traditions are more along the lines of spirituality and are still held in high regard, in contrast to Western Hemispheres, which majorly practice just straight North Node, afraid of the past, don't want to deal with the past, everything in the past. And nodes, what I've come to find out, are actually time travel portals, but we're going to save that for another video. And when exercising this South Node in Libra, the discussion should come out in a congenial kind of way to say, hey, let's cooperate here. Let's set some terms. I'm going to school for interior decorating. I understand you got all the money in the world, but don't you think I should take a crack at this? Like, did you see my work? Let me show you my homework. Like, I'm good. I got 2 years in now. Like, let me try. You know what I'm saying? And if I fail, then we could look into the interior decorating part. You know what I'm saying? But save a few dollars, or whatever the case may be. Now, you can see where there might be some type of friction or discrepancy in that type of scenario. I'll leave it to your own imagination. But this is what I mean. The individual needs to be enabled to go their own way to become whole, so that when they step into the ship, they have so much more to offer, and they can offer it from an authentic and generous place. Because if they don't, this is what happens. Some of us during this time span, right, we wholeheartedly and genuinely had the intention to help other people inside of ships. But what happened was, there was, in some type of way, generosity to a fault, because it would be coming out of exhaustion, meaning doing too much for the other individual. It just wasn't time for that. It doesn't mean that you were being harsh. It does mean you were being selfish, but it doesn't mean that you were intentionally trying to hurt the other person. Some of us even backed out of, not necessarily backed out of agreements, but pumped the brakes on them, pushed the pause button to say, yo, look, we're still going to do this, but we just can't do it right now. We're not going to do it right now. So you may have committed prematurely just to show how genuine you are, right? How authentic you are. But the reality of it is you probably had to put off some things, collaborations that can generate whether it's attraction, revenue, whatever your intent is on the back end, instead of dealing with advances. This is another place where discrepancies and disruption with the individual and relationships during this time came about, because there are doings that are going on in a monetary based society. Now, if we were living in a resource-based society, which I'm probably ahead of my time saying this, I've said this before, though, we will be in a resource-based society eventually. Price congestion downtown in New York is an example of what I'm talking about. You'll see that the lean producers and the minimalists of the world are probably going to take over the world. And, you know, carbon footprints, another example of what I'm talking about, right? So, but because we live in a monetary based society, we have had to put things off that we prematurely committed to with our ships, because we had to do other things that involve transactional theory, or, you know, just monetary transactions, right? We gotta still get our bread. We gotta still get our money. So that comes first before the other things. And not necessarily, or not wholeheartedly, but let's say you took the other route and you said, no, I'm going to put them transactional things off to the side because my heart is into this, and I'm more into this ship that I'm building with this other individual. And, you know, but the reality of it is you got bills every month. So that would be irresponsible, and that would be the Aries North Node failing to step into themselves fully and become whole for the sake of operating in that empathy vein, operating as someone who is based or rooted in relationships, showing up for someone based upon who they are instead of showing up in the ship based upon who you are. I hope I'm making sense right now. You understand what I'm saying? If I'm not, get in the comment section and I'll clarify where I may have skimmed over something, you know? So, you know, some of us, like, a question would be, did you cut off your South Node during this time period? Like I said, some people have completely cut people off, stopped dealing with individuals. And not for nothing, this is also a time frame where a lot of realization came into play, to where you realize all you got is you. All you got is yourself. And for those of you who don't fully believe that, or didn't experience it to that extent, what you did experience is that the better you are, the better you show up inside of the ships. And the ships that you determine to be real ships are the ships that give back. See, Aries is an investment sign, right? It's an investor sign. It's an entrepreneurial sign. So you've learned the difference between the ships, whether they're acquaintanceships, friendships, again, relationships, or whatever the case may be. How reciprocal is a relationship? Besides, you know, how now friendships, if we're talking about real friendships, if we're talking about astrology, we're talking about people who help your dreams come into fruition. And that's more along the lines of back end generation, could be front end, like advancements or paying people to do stuff or whatever the case may be. But again, we spoke about that discrepancy as well. You know what I mean? But you've been able to determine the differences between these types of ships to say, well, you know what? This ship actually gives back. So this ship qualifies for the energy that I invest into them or into it. The other ships don't. Again, maybe it's just alignment. It's not an alignment. The chemistry is not in alignment. It's not no one's fault necessarily, unless they have missed this lesson over the past, 18 months. If they have missed this lesson, then their self-awareness was too low to pick up on asking you the important questions, and or you failing to step into your own self and show the other person that you are an individual. Some of us had to say some things to some people that we normally wouldn't want to say in fear of losing them. However, we had to say it. We had to say it in order to say who we are, in order to communicate who we are and the way that we are. And this may have taken some time. It may have taken all the way up to this time period right now, because this is the climax of the actual transit. So you may notice with all transits that the closer they get to the end of the transit, the more impactful and powerful they are, the more they begin to resonate. So this may have been just yesterday, to where you've gotten to the place where you've spoken to someone and said, you know what, I need to tell you something. This, that, and the third, I'm like this, I haven't told you, maybe I should have told you sooner. I apologize, but it is what it is. You know what I'm saying? Whew, got that off the chest. You know what I'm saying? And now it's up in the air. Like I said, it's open-ended. You know what I mean? But you might have cut your south node off, period. And if you didn't cut your south node off, what you found out is that when you went back to speak with other individuals, you learned how spiritual relationships are, or ships are, to your life. You listen to the qualities in the discussion. You listen to how well the other person listens. And these have inspired and encouraged the Aries North Node side of you to go back out and do the things that you were naturally or initially doing, because you feel like you have what? Support system back there in the South Node that says, okay, yeah, I see what you're doing, I hear what you're doing, was just checking up, was just checking in, just wanted to see how you was feeling, just wanted to see what you ate today, whatever, right? Yeah, it may not be transactional. Yeah, it may not be doing all, checking all of the boxes and having all of the bells and whistles, but this is how you learn what spirituality means when it comes to the nodes. Now, just take a look, if you want a more descriptive detail of what I'm saying in that aspect, just look at society. Society, like mainstream, is a good place to look if you want to see the transits unravel. Look at society and look at when people are saying their truth, being authentic in themselves during that time frame, and when people are going along just to get along, and then when something happens, they switch. It's finicky, it's flaky. They flip on the other individual. The reason being is because they weren't themselves with that individual when they needed to be. And it's only but so long that can happen until something comes and disrupts the fake harmony, because it was fraudulent, it was even staged, manipulated, whatever the case may be. You understand? And again, I don't think that you should look at yourself as a bad person unless you were intentionally manipulative in some of these ships. But if you were just sometimes giddy or head over heels or whatever the case may be, and you put on your best game face and you wanted to be present, because Aries energy is like wanting to be you know what I mean, present, and show you that they're present. And I'm not just talking about the Aries sun sign, I'm just talking about the energy in general. It wants to show you that they're present. But most of the time, a lot of the times, because they're opposites, they show up, or the energy shows up in relation to the other party instead of showing up as the authentic self. And then vice versa, when it happens, you show up so authentically that the other person is taken aback, like, geez, you know what I'm saying? But that's up to them to do their homework and say, okay, well, that person is just being them. You know what I'm saying? And that's not congenial with me or harmonious with me, but I understand, I get it. You know what I'm saying? Or what have you. You know what I mean? What else has happened during this time is that you've understood the vulnerabilities that where you have been, are, and can be exploited. Okay? Now, this is not the worst thing, because you realized that partnerships are built on these actual things. You realize that. You've come to terms with that. So now it's game on. It's like a soldier mentality theory comes about now, because just like the soldier is enlisted into the corps, right? Into the regimen, they build themselves for something that's bigger than themselves, and then eventually they become the general themselves, right? But along the way, you're going to experience rivalries. You're going to understand that you're under the hood of something else, that someone else or something else is pulling the strings in order to make you go, because you're being exploited. I think we're all exploited on this earth. If you don't believe that, just get in the comment section and show me where on the map you're living off the grid. I might come visit. But again, that goes to the monetary versus resource-based society of why we operate in those veins, because, you know, as the saying goes, you're doing what you have to do instead of doing what you want to do, right? Now, all of this was done for qualifications to find out who's qualified to help you bring your dreams into fruition. Now, the North Node is about to transit into the sign Pisces, which rules over dreams and vision, glamour, and what have you, etc., amongst plenty of other things, mental health and all kinds of stuff, you know. But definitely the imagination, vision, dreams, and things of that nature. Now, I wouldn't say to expect your dreams to come into fruition during this North Node and Pisces transit. What I will tell you is this, right? Because during this Aries North Node transit, what happened as well is a lot of us began a lot of different things. Some of us like many different things, and realize just how good you are at it again, right? Going out there to become whole, realizing that you could try new things, be good at it, and do your thing, right? And not for nothing, some of us did not finish all of the things that we've started. But with a North Node in Aries, you're not expected to. So again, don't beat yourself up. Pause. Don't, because you're not expected to. Aries does not finish things. Aries starts things. So you'll see when North Node transits into Pisces, expect to see the things that were started during the Aries North Node transit begin to come into fruition. And some of those things are going to take prevalence over others. And you'll know by the energy spark that you get to say, oh, I want to start this. You're going to say it just like this too. I want to start doing this again. But it's like you already started it, but that's the Aries energy in general. Whenever you feel like it's starting all over again, that's the alignment that lets you know that's the thing. You know, even when other people come into your life and they mention to you, yo, remember when you used to do that? That's Aries energy. They're igniting it again. They're igniting that spark again, and they get you going again. I've had plenty of Aries sun signs just do that in my life in general. This is how I accumulated the knowledge to confirm this. So expect to see those things come into fruition during the North Node and Pisces transit, and not for nothing, some of those things that you began during this period are probably going to be along the lines of things that deal with vision and entrepreneurship and, you know, things that are Piscean-like. Because what Pisces is going to do, this Pisces transit, is going to show you how to finish the things that you started and package it for distribution, right? For distribution. Not going to get into the South Node in Virgo. We'll do that at another time. I just wanted to bring this to the forefront, discuss this, describe this. Let's get in the comment section and work. I know there's some things I left out, but I didn't want to go deep into scripting and all of that stuff. I just wanted to Aries it out. You understand what I'm saying? So, until next time, y'all, I'm out.